Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day and welcome to the um, All America City webinar where we were going to be talking about the 2026 application process and this year's theme, which is America at 250, Strengthening Civic Health and Building Trust. So nice and broad and also hopefully nice and relevant for all of you. All right. And just as a reminder, we are recording today, and the recording as well as the slides are going to be shared with you. I like to start with this slide, just as a reminder of what the end goal here is. This is going to feel sometimes like a lot of information and like a lot of work, and it is, but I can promise you that it is worth it. What you have here on your screen is our 2025 winning communities, communities all the way from Akron, Ohio to Jacksonville, North Carolina to Tallahassee, Florida. These communities were in your shoes this time last year. Some of them well versed in the All America City Award, some of them learning about it for the very first time, but all of them saw through the application and the event and were recognized as one of our 10 winners last year. As some of you may be familiar with, we do have a different theme each year. So the theme that these communities were recognized under was for strengthening environmental sustainability. So a little bit of a switch up this year, but the core of our award always and forever will be civic engagement and collaborative problem solving. And so you are in the right place if your community does those things well. So I am going to start our conversation off today with just kind of an overview of the All America City Award. We'll talk about this year's theme. We'll talk about the application components and some tips. I'll give you the criteria that the application reviewers, as well as the jury, will ultimately be using to um, judge your both your application and your in-person presentation. And then after all of that really boring stuff from me, we're going to actually be hearing from three communities, as I mentioned, that who were in your shoes last year. We're going to be joined by Carrboro, North Carolina, Chelsea, Massachusetts, and our friends in Hampton, Virginia. And I really like to bring on communities from the previous year, just because, while I, of course, know everything backwards and forwards about this event, these communities actually speak your language and they deal with some of the same struggles and resource allocation problems and all of that as you do. So it really comes better from their mouth in terms of their tips as well as the benefits that their communities have seen from the award. So we'll be hearing from the three of them at the tail end of this call. But for now, just a little bit of housekeeping before I jump in. Again, ask that everyone remain muted, just out of respect for the content as well as our guest speakers. If you can hold questions till the end, or if you are just worried you're going to lose it, you can go ahead and put it in the chat, and then I will circle back through and we'll make sure we'll get that addressed before we jump off today. As a reminder, the webinar is being recorded, and the recording, as well as those slides, will be emailed out to you. And then I am always available post-webinar for any questions that come up after you've been ruminating on this a little bit and need to get something answered. I'm always available. So, if you wouldn't mind just starting off with a quick introduction in the chat, give me your name and the community that you are calling in from, and whether or not you are familiar or have been involved in the All America City Award, just so we can kind of get a little bit of a sense of kind of the different levels of knowledge we've got on today's call. And hopefully, I can increase that level of knowledge today over the next 30 minutes or so. So by way of background, for those of you completely unaware, maybe someone forwarded you this calendar invite and was like, "Oh, this seems interesting. You should join." The All America City Award has been around since 1949, and it recognizes the best in American civic innovation. So it has a really, I think, inspiring origin story. The National Civic League back in the day, called the National Municipal League, had an annual conference about local government. And a reporter joined that conference one year, 1948 or so, and came up to a board member of ours at the time, who you might have heard of, George Gallup, the famous pollster, and said, you know, this is great. I want to write a column about good governance and civic engagement. And I was hoping, could you just tell me, the top 10 communities who are doing this work really well so I can get some on the ground experiences. And George Gallup, sort of being the type of person he is, who is super interested in data and numbers, of course, was like, well, I can't possibly just give you 10 communities. We need to have some sort of criteria and system for deciding who those communities are. And such was the origin story of the All-America City Award. It was also loosely based off the All-America football team, where we kind of pick out the best and the brightest football players across the country and recognize them each year. That is what we try to do, but with civic engagement and good governance. And so each year we recognize communities that are using sort of collaborative problem solving, civic engagement to both address critical issues as well as kind of create more thriving communities and seize on opportunities. But in order to kind of keep it fresh and relevant to the day and to the issues that you all are facing, we have a different theme each year. And so that theme is typically related to either what is top of mind in terms of what communities are dealing with, or what we hear from our network about, we want to highlight our work around X topic. So we'll get into this year's theme a little bit later. But first, I want to talk to you about why you should apply and what we have found through an external consultant to be the benefits of applying. So the three things that come up for us each year, and this bears out both in kind of like anecdotal feedback from communities that participate, as well as through our event evaluation that we do every year. First and foremost, just kind of the pride and increased sense of collaboration that comes out of this. We know that the work of local government, the work of local community building, if you're not with a local government, can be thankless at times. And we really love to be able to make sure that you all get a sense of pride of what you're doing and what benefits you're bringing to your community day after day. And what we have found is that by merely participating in the application, or if you're named a finalist and coming to Denver, the amount of collaboration that happens within your community, you learn about new community partners, you strengthen bonds, you oftentimes will learn about some idea that from the event, and you have this huge amount of energy and catalyst for doing even more within your community when you get back. And then, of course, you've got the national recognition. I've got the logo here up in the top left-hand corner of this slide. You've probably seen this on light poles and water towers and city limit signs, on manhole covers and the sides of City Hall, as well as municipal vehicles. But we really try to shout the work that you all do from the rooftops. And we've got all kinds of national partners, CGI Digital, National League of Cities, International City County Manager Association, that help us to recognize you all post-event at their conferences. We also work with several state leagues to make sure that we recognize you in their magazines as well as their conferences. So it's just a really good boost to kind of your community's brand, as well as getting your name out, especially for those smaller communities that kind of get outshined at times by those larger cities. And then our expert consultant has also found, after interviewing and looking at data from past All-America cities, that this is oftentimes an economic stimulus in terms of attracting or retaining businesses, creating jobs, drawing in new residents, and then even being able to get new grants. We oftentimes write letters of support for our past All-America cities as they are looking to seek outside grants. And then I'm also hoping that some of my 2025 communities on our call here today will talk a little bit about what they have seen as the benefits. All right. And then also really happy to lift up and recognize our airline partner, Southwest, for kind of the second time ever. They have doubled down on their commitment to the All America City Award, and we are funneling that right back to communities. And we're able to, thanks to their support, give each community that is named an All-America City four round trip tickets on Southwest Airlines to ideally come out to the event, and those should ideally come to communities and individuals who otherwise wouldn't be able to join us for the event. But we really appreciate their support and are happy to be able to pass that along to you all. All right, so let's dive into kind of this year's theme. As I mentioned, this changes from year to year. And this year, many of you are probably aware that 2026 will be the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So we have designed this year's theme around that. And we are looking to reflect on our journey to be a country and a government by, for, and of the people. And we know oftentimes that starts with local communities. So we're going to be recognizing communities that are bringing those founding ideals to life by really making sure that residents and stakeholders have the power and the influence to really have a voice in the decision and the programs that impact their lives. So we're looking for any efforts that are building civic health or creating strength and belonging and welcoming. We are looking at this incredibly broadly. So I've got about 10 bullets here on this slide of projects that might fit under this. But it is really, really broad. So if you have something in your mind and you're wondering if it would fit under this theme, the answer is probably yes. But also feel free to, during Q&A, ask me, if you've got an idea you want to run by me, or post webinar, shoot me an email, or we can set up a one-on-one call. Happy to talk through some of the ideas you might think about including in your application. But just to get those wheels turning on things that you might include in your application. So most general of all, sort of any processes or systems that you have in place to engage residents in addressing whatever local challenge you have. So this could be a mental health project. This could be about homelessness. This could be about economic development, whatever it could be, as long as you are engaging residents and engaging external stakeholders in the design, implementation, evaluation of all of that, it will fit under this theme. And then next, anything that kind of builds community or trust or welcoming, a sense of belonging. So things like block parties or festivals or neighborhood mini grants could be seen under this application. We know communities do all kinds of really creative things with arts-based efforts. So that could be anything from a festival or a mural challenge or a sculpture design kind of crowdsourcing effort. A little bit more technical might be a participatory budgeting initiative or a citizens assembly or any sort of deliberative process that engages residents and helps them to help you all make policy recommendations. Also would be considering kind of any sort of innovative public meeting format where you're kind of turning the normal 3 minutes at the mic on its head and allowing for broader participation, or maybe a system that fosters more dialogue. Civic tech would be great for this theme. Anything that allows you to kind of source opinions or feedback from the community, any tech that allows you to do that would be great. So I will kind of allow you all, and this information is all within both the informational flyer and the application, but read through some of those ideas. And then if you still don't know, you've got a really great community effort in mind, and you're not sure if it fits under this theme, just feel free to reach out to me, and I'd happy to give you some guidance about how best to frame that. So a couple of details. Again, all of this is available on the website, but I like to really hammer home that this is a two-step process. So writing the application is kind of stage one. That is where we'll talk about the different components within that application. But we then narrow all of the applications that we get from across the country. We have an external application review committee that reviews all of those based on the criteria that we'll talk about. And then we invite 20 communities to take place to be named as finalists and then take part in the second stage of this, which is our in-person presentation. And that's where you do kind of have to commit to bringing a delegation. It can be as small as 10 people to as many as 80 people, depending on what your budget and all of that looks like. But we do ask that you kind of commit to bringing a small team to Denver, where you bring your presentation, that written application to life in the form of a 10-minute, oftentimes skit and very fun way of presenting that and bringing that to life. I don't want to spend a ton of time on the in-person presentation just because that is step two. I'm going to focus most of today on the written application. And then we have all kinds of additional guidance and opportunities to give you feedback and guidance on step two. But just keep in mind that there is a step two, and that would require you coming to Denver. And then, of course, there's some really important dates to keep in mind. You are right now checking box one off of your first step, and that is attending today's informational webinar. And then we have our optional letter of intent. That's not due until January 5th. We've got a really easy, simple template on our website that can kind of guide you through that. That is a low bar to commitment. That just helps us to kind of recognize how many communities we're having consider this, whether we need to increase our marketing or reach out to certain states that we haven't heard from, and then also helps us kind of decide how many application reviewers. So you're really helping us out, and then in exchange, we give you a $100 discount on your $250 application fee. So really recommend submitting that. Full applications are due in February. We'll announce the winners in March. We'll prepare for the competition. March through June, we have all kinds of support for that. And then the this year's event is June 26th through 28th. All right. And again, all of this is available on the website that is now live, so you should have access to all of this. But there are four main components to your application. Community statistics and map, that's pretty straightforward. We ask for some basic population demographic kind of stuff. Most of that can be found very, very easily through the Census Bureau. And then we ask for kind of a visual representation about where you're located within your state. Specifically, pretty important for communities that might be smaller, that application reviewers aren't very familiar with. That helps us to know, okay, they're rural or they're on the coast or they're in the mountains. It's just really nice context for the reviewers to have. Again, another form of context is your community story. This is kind of the shortest, feel good, just set the background of what we need to know about your community. This part of the application is not actually scored. It is just giving us some important background information to kind of set the stage for the rest of your work. Then we dive into the meat and potatoes of your application. That's your community's civic capital. We've got more robust definitions of this in the application itself and our website. But some of the things we're looking for are, does your community have a shared vision? How was that created in concert with your residents and with your stakeholders? Is there a culture of engagement in a lot of different avenues for people to get involved? Yes, in the government, but also in community life more broadly. Are there lots of leadership opportunities or leadership development opportunities? Do you have a diversity and equity lens through this? Do you communicate authentically and have kind of a two-way system of communicating with your residents? And then finally, we know you all have all kinds of wonderful community partners and stakeholders and all of that. But is there really like a collaborative framework? And does the school district and the business community and Chamber of Commerce and Community Foundation work in concert with the city on a lot of different things? So those are some of the things that we're looking for in the civic capital section. And then when most people think about the All-America City Award application, they think of this final component, and those are the three programs or projects that you're going to be highlighting. And so those are going to be the programs or projects that are centered around that theme. So civic trust, civic health, and building trust is where you're going to talk about three different ways that you all are meeting that theme. So that's kind of what makes up the application. Now I'm going to talk about how you should talk about that last part of the application, which is your program components. So sometimes this can get a little bit hairy to just describe and to like wrap your head around the best way to put this on paper. So we try to give you some really concrete guidance in terms of the way to discuss it. So I recommend talking about the challenge. You know, what was the catalyst? Why are we dealing with this? What's the problem that you're trying to solve here? How were residents and community stakeholders involved in the design, implementation, and evaluation? You're going to start hearing some of the same words over and over again in this presentation. So, engagement, collaboration, you're going to be using a lot of that framing when you talk about these efforts. And then, of course, the action. What have you done so far in terms of addressing this challenge? What are a summary of efforts as well as next steps? And then, of course, impact. What's been the success? If it's more of a project that is kind of in the beginning stages or in the middle, then maybe you don't have a lot of impact yet, but we at least need to kind of know how you're measuring success. And then that leads me to a larger, just kind of guidance of most of these efforts should be happening within the last 5 years or so. It can be something that's been going on for 25 years that you all just kind of do, and it is a Citizen Summit, for example. Port St. Lucie did this in their application. They've been doing it for years, but they have a new component and they innovate and they evolve it year after year. So is what made it kind of fit within that 5 year framework. But it shouldn't be something like a mental health summit that you did 10 years ago and you haven't done with anything with since. So it needs to be fairly relevant and timely to what you're dealing with right now. And then these are the criteria that your application and then ultimately your presentation, if you're named a finalist, is going to be judged by. So again, a lot of the same words are going to be popping up, and you're going to start seeing some similarities. So all of your efforts are going to be looked at through the lens of civic engagement. So we're really stressing to avoid kind of top-down efforts that, you know, the city saw this problem and the city did X, Y, and Z, and the city was successful. It could be the greatest program in the entire world, but if it didn't involve the community and it didn't have collaboration and you didn't engage people in defining the problem and thinking through solutions, then this might not be the best award to go after. So we're really looking for things that were involving civic engagement, engagement of residents, collaboration, both cross-sector, interdepartmental within your city, as well as regional. Inclusiveness and equity, what we really mean by this is that you're involving everybody, cross-sector, community, different backgrounds and perspectives, experiences. This could be language access. It could be having meetings in parts of the community they're typically left out. Anything that is kind of promoting the involvement of all different walks of life is what we mean by inclusiveness and equity. And then lastly, and again, you've heard me talk about this before, impact. We need to know if there has been significant and measurable achievements from these interventions over the past 5 years. All right, so I know that was a lot of information, but since there are quite a few components to the application, I recommend starting early. I know February 26th feels like a very long time away, but since you've got a lot of things to put together, since you're hopefully going to be doing this in concert with other departments and other community members and stakeholders, start really, really early. And the reason you're starting early is because you're going to be really collaborative and making sure this isn't just one really enthusiastic person writing the entire application. You're going to want to involve all of the people who had a voice and a say in the effort itself and be involved in this as well. This takeaway is probably maybe a little less important this year of staying on theme, just because this year's theme is so intentionally broad. But make sure that you are kind of speaking to that civic trust and I'm sorry, civic health and trust building nature of the project. So if it feels like an effort that is maybe tangentially related to the theme, just really hammer home, like in your mind, how you think it relates to the theme. This feels very silly, but follow instructions. We are not trying to have any sort of gotcha. We really spell out all of this in the webinar, in my emails to you, in the application. We are not trying to pull a fast one on you. Everything should be really spelled out. If it does not feel spelled out, email me and I will provide you with whatever guidance, but just make sure that you're following instructions. Prepare for success. What I mean by that is be thinking about that second stage. Be thinking about, okay, I need to then bring a community to Denver and then think about my presentation. And then last but not least, please, please, please ask for help. This is why they pay me the big bucks. So you've got my contact information, you've got my email, my phone number. I love being able to make sure that you all are putting your best foot forward. And I will be as open and honest, transparent about the process and give you as much guidance as I possibly can. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me with help. I do not worry about communities that I get emails over and over and over again from. I worry about communities who I hear from once and they never contact me again. So please reach out with any questions. All right. So that was a lot of information. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen really quickly. Let's all take a breath, unclench your jaw. Any initial questions before we hear from our wonderful 2025 winners? Feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. We'll take questions either way. All right. I'm looking through here, just a couple of kind of new to the process, vaguely aware, a couple of people who have applied before, which is great. All right. I've got a question, a raised hand from Faustina. Apologies if I mispronounced your name, but
Oh,
please
that's
feel free.
perfect.
Great.
That's perfect. Sorry, I went on a coffee run, so I'm in the car. Um, Thank you for hosting this. I have a question. I got a little confused on the three programs piece. So, because I was going in the mindset that you're focusing on one program that sort of hits on all those buckets, but it sounds like it's the opposite, that you're finding like a theme, like a civic, perhaps like a general theme that you have multiple programs that would hit on that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, if you have a youth council that's really focused on civic education, that could be one program. And then you have a school district program that has a mentorship program, that could be a second one. And then let's say you've got a participatory budgeting thing that gets people really involved in spelling out the budget, then that could be your third program. So
Okay.
you can be pretty broad with them, but you are going to break those down into kind of three distinct things.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Um, Hi,
Hi, Mandy.
how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Okay. So how do we reel it in? Because we have so many of these throughout the city. Can we kind of make it more broad, like what a department is doing, or should we really nail it down to three programs?
It's a great question. I refer to this as the umbrella strategy, which I think Hampton typically does this when you all apply, where you'll kind of have a general bucket of work that you will make one program out of, and then there will be like five or six different initiatives that are all addressing the same thing.
Okay.
That's fine. That can all be fit. The only thing you have to think about with that is the 1,000 word
I
limit
know.
and your 10-minute presentation.
Okay.
So if you need to narrow it down even further than like the umbrella effect, which is a wonderful way to do the application, if you need to narrow it down even further, I would take a really hard look at the criteria and say, of these five things, which ones meet these criteria the best? It
Okay.
could be better than, the other one, but if it's just more well suited for these criteria in this particular award,
Mm,
and sometimes it's easier to have kind of an external partner do that for you because they're all our babies and we love all of them.
no.
So sometimes it's easier to, bring that to someone who has a little bit more perspective and say, which one of these do you think fits this criteria better? That
Okay.
makes sense. And I'm
Yes.
also, between now and February at your disposal if you want to have more of a conversation with me about whether or not something fits or if you should do this one or that one. I have that conversation with folks all the time.
Oh,
Be happy to do
good.
that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to help you out, Rebecca,
Yes,
because
please.
there's two questions in the chat. Give you a break a little bit so you can take a sip of water or something. But we have two. So the first one is from Shauna Riley, and she's asked, "We are a regional campus. Is it possible to apply on behalf of the region? There are 32 political subunits within their region."
Absolutely. And thank you so much for being my question narrator. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
So we recognize counties and regions as well as towns, communities, cities. We actually had, for the first time in my history of the award, our first ever Council of Regional Governments apply as the Riverside, California. They were a finalist last year, so you can absolutely apply as a region. We have a different shield and everything like that. If you were to be named, we'd call you an All-America region instead of city, and like all of that is the specifics. But the short answer is absolutely you can apply as a region, and happy to give you some more one-on-one guidance because that is a little tricky sometimes. You just want to make sure you have a lot of buy-in from all of those political subunits, which makes it trickier, but can be a really excellent like collaboration catalyst for your region as well. Great question.
All right. It was a great question. And so the next one is from Melanie, and I will not butcher your last name, so I'll just say Melanie. What, what if new community engagement initiatives are just nearing roughly a year old? Asking because you mentioned over the past 5 years, is there a required time period that programs need to have been in place? Great question, because I have one that I was thinking about that's really about the same timeline. So go ahead, Rebecca, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely accept and have had people have success with projects that are in the works and more on the earlier side. The one component that gets a little tricky with that is the impact component. So I would just recommend that you are really clear on how you're eventually going to measure success and what mechanisms you have in place to say, we can't tell if this has been successful yet, but we're going to do evaluation XYZ at the 6 month mark, at the 2 year mark, or whatever it might be. But you absolutely, this award is a lot more about kind of process and partners than it is the actual thing, which sounds funny sometimes. But as long as you've got a newer initiative that is really knocking out of the park in terms of that process of engagement and collaboration, you can 100% be successful with a newer initiative. All right. Well, those are some great questions to get us started. Please be thinking through some of the things that we went over just now. I am going to pass it on to our first community partner. We've got Fidel who is the city manager of the city of Chelsea, with us here to talk about Chelsea's 2025 effort. Welcome, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for highlighting Chelsea. I'll start with just a quick overview of Chelsea. So Chelsea is a small community outside of Boston. We are a majority minority community. We're about 75% Latino, and we are just over the Tobin Bridge on the other side of the TD Garden, which is home to the Boston Celtics. Chelsea won amazingly in 1998 and in 2014, but had not applied since 2014. So I came in as a city manager in 2024, and I used to be in public works before, and I was the person that put up those banners and did the stickers, and did all those things. So when I came in, it was absolutely a very exciting thing to do this All America City competition. What we did basically is we took the theme in 2025, which was environmental stewardship, and environmental progress, if you will, and we coalesced around three things that we thought were really impactful and kind of unique, right? Things that we thought would make us stand out in a crowd, and and I think they did. Next slide, please, Rebecca. Um, so once we received a that email from Rebecca saying, "All right, we liked your application. You're moving on to the next thing." What it, it kind of was a mad dash to get us ready, right, and to coalesce, our community around this process. So we definitely took the big umbrella approach. We invited everybody, from the Boys and Girls Club to our nonprofits, our police department, our fire department, our library members, our schools, and ultimately we extended the invitation, not just for the trip, but also for the planning process. It was very broad. We met every Monday at 12 o'clock, from the time that we were told we were going to Denver, to the actual trip. And those meetings were really important because we started having lunch together, we started seeing each other, and kind of making this camaraderie ship that we did. One cool thing that we did is we met in my office. All of the meetings were hybrid, so it was this combination of of people who couldn't leave the school buildings, for instance, and folks who are working here in City Hall. It brought us all together. When we started planning this presentation, right, it seemed like a really big lift, but what we did is we started having fun with it. We decided to make props, and instead of buying props, we decided to make it a community process. So we met at one of our public schools, and we rehearsed at the school on stage, and that's one of the pictures there. And we made the props ourselves. So who you see in the picture is our head of IT, and our head of Health and Human Services, doing paintings, right, of boxes. So it was a fun event, like just to actually prep for it. And then came the big day, or the big day for the trip. Next slide, Rebecca. We ended up taking 40 people. So it was definitely a complicated logistical opportunity, I'll say. It was really nice. It was nice that we brought a lot of people because we were able to kind of spread the love, right? And we brought a lot of nonprofit partners. We took 4 city councilors. We took one person for our school committee our school committee. It was definitely a big umbrella approach. We kind of, what we did is we broke up responsibility, right, of an event by team, if you will. So our Chamber of Commerce in Chelsea was in charge of the community fair, basically, that is had on one of the nights, and they were just in charge of that. We had another department that was in charge of of the community conversation, and basically we divided the workload there. I will say though that even though we prepped a lot before the trip, we took every opportunity that we could to prep there while we were there. When we were all together, we had a lot of rehearsals in the morning, a lot of rehearsals at night, right? So anytime there was downtime, we took that rehearsal. I will say that the conference was a blast, right? And what we loved was we all wore Chelsea themed shirts. It was very obvious, when Chelsea was in the room. We brought pom-poms that we used to kind of identify who we were, and
And
we
they
were
had
very
all the
intentional.
energy. Yes, I just wanted to
Yeah,
chime in. I know you were
thank
talking,
you.
give you a little break, but you felt Chelsea there. So I just wanted to give you
Yeah,
that compliment because I was just telling a coworker, I was like, ah, he's there.
I
Chelsea's
appreciate it.
great.
Yeah, yeah. And I was going to say we were very intentional in supporting other communities, not just ours, right? So we one of the pictures is from with Leominster, who is a neighboring city in Massachusetts. We kind of, we created the Massachusetts bond, and we went everywhere. together. One thing that we thought was important was to give our members who travel there a little downtime, right? I mean, and to go see Denver, right? Go have a little fun. So actually, one of the pictures is some kind of museum in Denver, where there's a big bear, right? And what we created was kind of shifts, right? Like I'll cover the morning shift, you'll cover the afternoon shifts, and it allowed people to experience Denver. And the last picture that I'll send on the slide is we all flew together on one United Airlines flight, and when we boarded the flight, we asked the pilot to give a little shout out. So it's on Instagram, I believe, but it was a shout out from the pilot to uh, uh, to Chelsea. So it was pretty cool. Next slide, Rebecca. And then obviously we wanted to bring the win back to the community, right? We didn't want it for it to be something that it happened and we move on to the next thing. So we were intentional in planning a big celebration for it. We have our annual Chelsea Day, which is our town fair day, and essentially we made it an All America City theme. And Rebecca came and joined us. She re-gave us the award, right? So we brought her up on stage, and she gave us the award again. We started the day with a 5K, so we wanted to get everybody involved. So we did a 5K in the morning, and then we did a parade down Broadway, which is our main street, if you will. And then we performed the same presentation that we did in Denver. We presented on Chelsea Day. So you just created this amazing theme, amazing energy. And again, the win was important, but I think what was more important was the process. What it was the conversations, it was the camaraderie, right? I mean, and I think I'll say that when we went in 2025, we brought a couple of people who went in 2014, and they were sharing stories about the trip 11 years ago. So it is definitely something that everyone that goes is going to remember for the rest of their lives, I would say. My contact information is on the slide. Please reach out to me. We got an amazing team, and we'd be happy to help any community with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing the Chelsea perspective. And yeah, this has been just a great application and really brought the energy during the award itself. And then I had a blast getting to know that community a little bit more. I now want to bring on Kat Lazorko, who is the Director of Communications and Engagement with the city of the town of Carborough in North Carolina. We have heard from a community who had won before, and I wanted to have Carborough join because it was their first time applying as well as their first time winning. So it is doable, it is possible. We typically have about a 50-50 split in terms of new applicants versus those who have done this before. So, Kat, please join us to share your perspective.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. First, I want to share that I follow directions, and Rebecca said, talk about tips, projects, benefits. And that's how I organized this presentation. So, but I want to first talk a little bit about Carborough. So you can go to the next slide. We're located in the central part of North Carolina, directly west of Chapel Hill and near the Research Triangle Park. We're often thought of as the little sister to Chapel Hill because we're a smaller, adjacent town that is intertwined with a larger university town. We're about 22,000 population. We are so close geographically that we're often perceived as one community, but Carborough has its own distinct, vibrant character with many festivals and local businesses, including Fleet Feet. We're home to the Fleet Feet headquarters, and there's a picture here on this slide of the Galloping Gorge race, which is coming up, and that'll be a really big race on Thanksgiving Day in downtown. So we're happily home to many running and cycling groups. So, oh, and one of our slogans is "You can't make this place up." So we don't take ourselves all that seriously. And this was the first time we'd applied to the AAC. So next slide. I really focused on the application aspect of this process. And as Chelsea mentioned, it is a long process. So I won't even kind of go into the practicing and all of that after you're a finalist. First, you have to tell your story. So my central tip is to give yourself enough time to put this together. The AAC application is comprehensive, and frankly, it's intense. Our submitted application was 15 pages long. I'm going to pause there for a minute and let that sink in. So think about how you will tell your story. Assemble a team to gather the data, the color, and the character that you're going to need, and identify a staff member who is a good writer. And be sure to follow all the directions that are outlined. Next slide. So, I'm sorry, one other tip, this is really important, actually sort of foundational principle, is be sure that you have buy-in from your leadership and that everyone is committed. Because again, it is a very involved process. So in Carborough's case, our town manager, Patrice Tony, was a champion, really wanted us to move forward with this. And without that kind of leadership, we would not have been able to really to finish the application and to meet all the checks and deadlines that were required. I heard some people talking about projects and how to identify them. And frankly, we had kind of the same challenge a bit in Carborough of, which projects should we highlight? In the year that, this year, it's not past yet. It was really environmental sustainability and community engagement. But I do notice that, and these are some of the pictures from our projects, but community engagement kind of is a central theme throughout all the projects that we highlighted. I will just say, do the projects have do they have good data? Do they have good metrics? Do you have good documentation of your projects? Are they authentic and true to your community? I think those are also important aspects. And be authentic. So let's go to the next one. The benefits. I started off talking about, Little Carborough. Well, the benefits of applying for All America City, completing the application itself is an accomplishment because it encourages real introspection and analysis, and it'll take a lot of teamwork to complete that application. But of course, you could win. And we all know how we feel about winning, and that's awesome. Little Carborough did this, and it has built our confidence. So we may ask, what else can we do? The teams that came together during the competition are still together. So the spirit of teamwork has continued. We're also enjoying resources from the National Civic League. In late September, Rebecca visited Carborough for an AAC award celebration. And the following day led a Democracy Innovations workshop. That's a picture from the workshop. And currently, a couple of our staff members from our delegation to Denver are working with the local policy lab, one of the partners with the National Civic League, on a proposal to assist the town with a racial equity action plan. So next slide. So this last slide kind of shows our celebration in Carborough was connected with our music festival, and Rebecca kindly joined us for that. There's a picture of her with our team there. We're also planning a special holiday parade community team. Many of the people in our parade team will be folks that were in the delegation. And we're also working on a new cargo bus wrap. And it's kind of a long story, but public transit played an important role in our presentation. We have free public transit in Carborough. And so that's also kind of a nice kind of outcome from winning. But I just want to say that we learned a lot in the process about ourselves, and it's only been a few months out really since the win, but we're still intrigued to see what more can we learn, what more can we gain from the participation with this national network that All America City has connected us with. How can we learn from our peers? And I think that the teamwork and the spirit, the confidence is really abounds. So I would really encourage you all um, to give this a try. And if you have any questions, and if we can help in any way, if I can help, please reach out. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kat. Really appreciate you. I just want to lift up a couple of things. Well, first, I remember after Carborough won, Kat said to me, I thought they wouldn't get it. I thought maybe was just going to be a little too weird for this. And
It's
that
so
is
true.
it is not, that the big thing that I want to pull out from Kat's presentation is the be authentic piece. Because we are not looking for some sort of like cookie cutter perfect community because those don't exist. And the perfect community is one that listens to its residents and has an authentic sort of sense of culture and pride. And Carborough certainly has that in spades. So I appreciate you showcasing that. And then the other thing I wanted to just kind of double click on that Kat mentioned is that it's really, really important to have buy-in. For any of the larger communities on the call, I have this kind of problem, or I see this as an issue more in the larger communities, where it is one kind of department that ends up owning and applying, and it is really meant to be not even just a whole city, but a whole community. We are not recognizing a municipality; we are recognizing a community. And so it needs to be really broad. And that means that you need to have buy-in from all kinds of both leadership as well as community stakeholders. All right. And now I'm going to hand it off to our friends at Hampton. They have won, I believe, 5 times now. Keep coming back, and we love them for it. And to see, I'm going to ask you to just kind of touch on anything that you think was maybe not said in the first half of this call.
Absolutely happy to do so. And really and truly, my friends and Kat and Fidel, and I think he stepped off, but they captured the essence of it really well. But it really is about community buy-in. Once you rally around your projects that have whatever you submit for the application, what you want to think about is how it embodies your community spirit. When we took upon the environmental stewardship and resiliency, we are surrounded by water. And so we jumped on that with our whole chest and all of our feet and just dived right in. And really, to Rebecca's point, when we thought about the projects, there were so many that we did take them and build them into categories and put many projects in between them. And so that absolutely is what we did. And so, it's one city that has won multiple times. It's one of those things like, well, what else can you submit for? There is always something that you can submit for and rally behind. And especially when you celebrate at the end. And also you want to think about that. Don't go into it thinking you're going to lose. Don't go into it thinking that this isn't worth it. It's not worth my time. Or that because you become a finalist again, you're one of 20 other localities that are finalists, and that you actually have to be one of 10 to get there, it stops there. Because even as a finalist that you might not win or get to the top 10, that's still recognition. But once you do, you have to start thinking about the after. And so that was one thing that wasn't hit on. And I think it's very important because these are the things that now I've been a part of our application for 3 times that we won. And each time is very uniquely different, and we celebrate it in a different way every year. But one thing that has been very, very unique is the idea that you jinx yourself if you plan for the after party. It's just like preparing for the Super Bowl. Just plan it. Just have an idea, just have a plan because it becomes much harder to implement after you've won if funds are already, bookmarked or earmarked for something else. Just kind of have a plan in mind so if you're going to buy hands and you want to have them at an event and they need to be there, that you order them in enough time. And so those are the things that sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you don't really think about because you're just trying to get to Denver and you're trying to rally around everybody. Another thing is, I think everybody has said this, but to make time for fun and to make sure you rally around, making sure you have your group cohesive. It is very important to know how the families are affected when you're traveling, not to have too many practices, not to get so serious about the application that you forget to have fun. The thing about I'm saying it wrong. Carabao, Carbarrel, Carbarrel.
Harborough.
Is that
Carrboro,
the Carabao? Okay, yeah, they had
it's
the fans.
Carrboro.
Carver. Okay, they had the fans, and they had this unifying sense, and where you thought might have been weird was the thing that I remembered the most. It was this lasting thing, and it was the spirit. And so it's as long as you think about not going in there as acting, even though you might have a presentation and there may be a role, feel it, know it, live it, and just show that at the presentation, and you'll always come out on top whether you win or not. I will just say this, Statesboro came this year, and I mean, they came with a large delegation, and it was like a lot. And I mean, the lasting impression that I have from them, and I know somebody here came from Statesboro, like, oh, I remember Statesboro, and da, da, da. And you might connect with that locality and their projects to actually work with them on different things, just like um, anything. Those are the opportunities that makes this particular award very valuable. And so we took a lot of things. I mean, we're carrying it on still until in 2 weeks at our State of City, we're still celebrating High Five Hampton. So you take your win and you create little things around it, like we won 5 times, so we got a high five, and we made a whole campaign, High Five Hampton. And so those are the kind of things that we like to do. I put in a link to our Facebook post about the things that you rally around while you're there, before you get there. It builds this sense of excitement, and it lasts all the time. And you pick people to share your story as well. And so I can't add any more that somebody else didn't say. It really is, but I was our team's coach and and our little captain. And if you could tell by all of the smile, that's why, because I'm like, cheer, but you need that person. It is needed. I've been there for 3 years in a row now, and I've tried to pass the baton over to someone else. They're like, no, we need all that energy, and truly it is needed. So the biggest lasting thing I can say is always have fun, but keep community centered in every bit of your message.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sia. Appreciate you giving that perspective. I'm going to stay on for just a couple minutes to answer any questions that are lingering. I know we're right at time, but if you all have time to stay on and you've got a question that you want to ask, please feel free to stay on. I wanted to mention one resource that folks often either don't know about or don't take me up upon, but I think is really, really important to success. And that is to request a mentor from me. So we have these communities that apply and they love it and they fall in love with All America City Award and they get to know each other and they want to pay it forward. And so they volunteer to be mentors to other communities. You've heard all of our speakers today talk about, like, please reach out if you have any questions. So it's really helpful. I'm always available to answer questions, but sometimes you just need to have that community perspective from someone who's done it before. So all you need to do is email me and say, hey, we're interested in applying. Can you please pair me with a mentor community? Might take me a minute, but I will get someone to you. They can help you with your application. They can help bounce ideas off of or answer questions about how you raised funds or budgeted or all kinds of things. And those end up being lasting relationships and collaboration. So please remember to request a mentor. a big factor of a lot of people's success. And then in terms of the application itself, stay on theme, make sure that you're looking at this year's theme, and keep those criteria centered. If you can't remember anything else, engagement and collaboration. And anytime you can hone in on those factors of your work, you're going to be in really good shape. So I am going to stay on, but that is all I've got for you today. And I will make sure that I send this recording as well as the slides and some follow-up resources after today's call. And just want to take one more moment to really thank our representatives, Kat and Tasia and Fidel, who jumped off, but they not only gave us lots of time and energy during their process last year, but also were willing to be with us here today to share their tips and tricks and all that good stuff. So thank you all so much for paying it forward. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, any questions for me?
Hi, Rebecca. It's Faustina again from City of Lynn, Massachusetts. I'm back in the office. So I guess I'm getting hung up on sort of trying to think of a theme that then 3 programs can slide into. And I have like at least I think I have like a sense, and I wanted to, I don't know if this is appropriate time to just mention what I was thinking, and maybe you can let me know if I'm on the right track.
Go for it.
One of the I think I had heard something around like equity and inclusion. And I'm the city's diversity, equity, inclusion officer, and I sit in the mayor's office. I'm part of his exec team. And one of the things that obviously is centered on in our work is really thinking about how do we make government more accessible. So the 3 that sort of come to mind immediately around access and working with community to sort of meet the need is our language access program and how we've rolled that out. It has been very community centered, serving the community about what we can be doing better and how we can communicate them. We just like launched a WhatsApp because a lot of our community is Spanish speaking, and the Latino community loves their WhatsApp and they love communicating through there. And then along the same lines, we launched an alternative to police response that was driven by the community for the last 4 years, doing a lot of research on how to do it right. And then the third piece would be how we have spent our opioid abatement settlement funds. We created a task force with stakeholders that have been impacted by substance use directly, and then also stakeholders who work with that population to determine how we spend the money. Everything goes through that group. They make the decisions around how we should be spending the money. So those were like 3 that came to mind, like around equity and inclusion. Does that sound like on the right track? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to clarify just one thing, and that is that like there can certainly be a through line between your through 3 efforts and programs, and if that is access and inclusion to sort of like city, the civic life and everything like that, that's great. They can also be 3 very wholly unique
separate.
things. But flip, like the other side of that is the 3 things you spelled out would fit wonderfully under this theme. The only thing that I might think is that the language access program efforts could kind of fit into the civic capital infrastructure section. So then you could bring in a whole nother program effort just so that you get to talk about more would be my only thing. But especially the like alternative to policing and the opioid settlement and how you worked with community to decide on that. Those are certainly 2 very strong standout programs, projects. My only feedback would be maybe put that language access piece in the authentic communication section of Civic Capital and then bring in another 3rd program or something. And that does not necessarily need to be linked to the other 2.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to reach out if anything else comes to mind.
I will.
Great.
So we just got included in a National League of Cities Community Engagement Academy.
Cool.
And is that a conflict of interest with us applying for this?
Not in the slightest. We are wonderful, great friends with
Now we're working with
actually,
Megan,
I'm sorry.
Megan Gregg or Grieg. I don't know.
They
They're
are
amazing.
huge. So I don't necessarily know that individual person, but we
Okay.
oftentimes like we recognize All America Cities at their conference every year.
Mm,
So oftentimes we will have their programming and speakers and people from their org on our jury and things like that.
okay.
So no conflict of interest. I would certainly mention that you're doing that. That shows an investment and a commitment to the way you're thinking about civic engagement. You might put that in your civic infrastructure, civic capital thing as of like a way that you're kind of building your capacity around that, but by no means a conflict of interest.
Okay, good. Because I think I might use that team to help me write this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Yeah,
we've
that'd
got
be
a
great.
really great team that we've built for them, and it's really fun. So good. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Anybody else? It's also very fine if anyone is lurking and just listening to other people's questions. That's fine too. But thank you all for being on. I'm going to jump off unless there's anything else. Really appreciate you all being on here. I hope you all apply. It truly is one of the coolest professional things I've ever been part of. I've never had anyone regret being part of it, is will be my parting words for you. All right. Well, I hope to hear all from you later on and have a great rest of your day.